And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Welcome back. My name is Rafael Ibarra, your host for tonight, and we are going to be diving in deep to my 2025 Underdog Best Ball Exposures. So let's get started. I first want to just let you guys know the guys I was in on last year. Maybe let me try and pull that up real quick for you on another tab real quick. But one of my bigger stands last year was Chuba Hubbard. Let's see. Share this tab instead. Yeah, so I was really in on Amon-Ra St. Brown last year. If you can tell from here, St. Brown. I just had a good amount of Detroit Lions. I wish I had a little bit less of Laporta and more of Jameson Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs, and maybe more Goff because of the volume he put up. But I did like the price of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I thought he was a guy that we could have been taking at the 101 this year, but I kind of missed that one just a bit. I was very in on, so the misses were the Bears. I kind of caved into the Bears. I thought they were going to be a better team, a better offense under Caleb Williams. This year, I'm actually kind of doing the opposite, where I think that they're going to be a team that's maybe a little bit overvalued this coming season. Ben Johnson needs to really establish the culture in that on that team, and which is why I think maybe Colston Loveland and Luther Burton are maybe a year early of us drafting those players. And so I can still see a range where Cole Kmet is still involved in this offense. I see Swift being involved heavily in this offense. I do think I'm probably gonna middle the Rome Odunze value, and then I'm probably gonna be into DJ Moore more on or on most teams. For the Vikings, I had not so much exposure to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. I was trying to get into JJ McCarthy after seeing clips on him and his preseason debut. But that's just another team that I missed on. I was kind of into the Bears the Packers last year, and I'm getting into them once more. I kind of had 7% of all of them throughout. Going into the NFC South last year, I really full faded the NFC South. They were just going to be a bad team, and I got pretty spot on lucky with them. Last year also, I was into Darnell Mooney at the price. Tajay Spears kind of, and then Bijan. I just did a little 5% of him. He didn't really lose value last year. I was really into Jalen McMillan at price. I wish I had more Bucky Irving, more Mike Evans and Baker. I just was really off on this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. Like the Bears, I think I was a bit early on the Carolina Panthers, but Chuba Hubbard did help me, and a little bit of Adam Thielen helped me from last year. I think Rico Dowdle is going to be like the Jonathan Brooks that we were hoping for last year, and so I think he's a value at the price right now that he's going. Deontay Johnson, I bet the bullet on him. What other analyst was saying about him, and that really influenced me to look at what he was going to do. So I think Tetero McMillan being in this offense, I think is going to be what I hoped for Deontay Johnson for the Carolina Panthers. And I think this offense is going to be super fun um, for the Panthers. And I think Bryce Young is also very undervalued. I think he helped me with my teams, especially at the end when he was looking like the number one overall pick in 2023 coming out of Alabama. Last year, I was also into Jaden Daniels, really heavy exposure to Jaden Daniels. Terry McLaurin at the end of the season, I was getting into a little bit. I wish I had a little bit more of him. Luke McCaffrey is just a miss at the end of the draft, which is fine. Brian Robinson, middling with that. I just thought Jaden Daniels was a superstar, and he helped get those teams along. Rico Dowdle, I was in on. I thought Dallas was going to be playing better than they were. CD Lamb, I had probably even exposure to Dak also. Zeke, I missed on, but there's a lot of misses and a few hits here. The Cowboys were just like a team that kind of got injury riddled with Dak Prescott, and they really just had Lamb. The Eagles, I was mid into. I liked AJ Brown at his cost, Jalen Hurts at his cost. This year I'm more into the elite running back, or the elite wide receiver and tight end. And then I'll go like middle rounds running back and middle round wide receiver, vice versa. Whatever I'm going for in the early rounds, if it's wide receiver, then I'll really detour and take running backs. But this year I really like to start with running back. But I was really into Malik Neighbors at his cost. I wish I had more. I kind of chickened out because of the whole offense and the team itself last year. I think the Giants are a dark horse team to make the playoffs. If I'm being quite honest with you guys, this year, Daniel Jones helped me get a couple teams into the playoffs with like Joe Burrow teams, which I am very happy about. But I wasn't into Tyrone Tracy, and he played pretty good last year. Let's see. NFC West had a boatload of JSN. He came on at the very end after DK got hurt. I also had DK, so he helped me more in the earlier year. I was into both the running back, Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. I think I was really in on my Seattle Seahawks. Maybe that was like a biased opinion. But Trey McBride was another stance I really liked. At cost, when we were thinking about elite tight end, the profile really struck out to me and what he could do. James Conner was also one of my guys. I didn't know I had this much Michael Wilson, but I did. He's actually one of my bigger fades this year. Marvin Harrison would have been a bigger fade, in my opinion, last year, but I kind of bought into him a little bit more. This year, more kind of staying in my lane, doing my own projections, listening to a few people and analysts that I really liked their thoughts and opinions on some things. More of the data end of it. I'm trying to learn more about that stuff. But I'm more of a, I guess you could say, film guy, and Marvin Harrison wasn't the type of wide receiver I was into. So if you remember how much of the Malik Neighbors I had, 12.8%, as opposed to Neighbors 12.2%, as opposed to Marvin Harrison. I was just not into him. That could have been, if I full faded Marvin Harrison, it kind of would have hurt me probably, to be honest, even more. But I just thought that the price was overvalued, and I think there's a running back this year that kind of overvalued on maybe the same type of team. I was into Kyron last year, which is very nice. I thought he didn't really have much in that backfield with Blake Corum. Now, I did get a little bit of Blake Corum, but there's just in the board as you go, I think there's a lot more zeros than we think there are. And so this year, I'm really taking my shots on a couple of players that I think are going to be really good picks. I'm just in the player pool more. I'm thinking more about range of outcomes. Um, and so Puka Nakua is going to be one of my highest drafted players in the first round. I hope to get at least 14% of Puka Nakua. Kyron is kind of more of a bigger fade. I might drop this Kyron price to like 9%, but I don't feel like we should be out on Kyron. The 49ers, I was kind of in the middle with George Kittle. I wish I had more of him. I thought I had more of him. Just looking back at this, wasn't into the Debo price, and he was kind of lucky for me. He got injured. Juwan Jennings, I think I was more in the big board after watching 2023 Super Bowl. But this year I'm kind of out on, but in now I've kind of opened my eyes up to what he can do for this offense. I think I'm going to be out on Ricky Pearsall. But I do think Ayuk is going to be that number one wide receiver when he comes back. But I do want enough exposure to Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle on the 49ers. And then last but not least, AFC North. We just got done with the NFC. But I'll try to make it a little bit faster. I was in on T. Higgins. Really did good in the finals. Chase Brown, kind of in the middle of Chase Brown, in the middle of Jamar as well. I liked Joe Burrow at his cost. I thought if he stayed healthy, he would have been awesome, and he was. I was just more in on Amon-Ra. I wish I could take that one back. Let's see. The Steelers, Justin Fields, I got enough of him. Pat Freiermuth, good on him. Pickens in the middle of him. Warren, kind of. I just think I had a lot of even exposure from last year, and I kind of don't want to do that this year at all. I kind of want a lot of what I showed you with the Saints. But if it seems like I'm talking a little bit fast, I am. I'm trying to get through my old exposures to show you guys my new exposures. But I did come out pretty victorious. Like I was in on Lamar. I had enough of Mark Andrews to help me. Jerry Judy, let's see. North. Yeah, so Jerry Judy, I only had 4.5%. Najee only 3.2%. That would have helped me also. But there's a lot of fades that I did have, like Zay Flowers, and I think he's a now fine click, I think. Nico, I was in on. He unfortunately got hurt. Tank also as well. Joe Mixon was another fade. I just thought the Stroud offense. I thought Stroud was overvalued, overpriced, and he was. I just should have. I'm really just trying to think more about the outcomes and how these offenses will be played, and they will. Brian Thomas, I thought I had more of 10.3% of Brian Thomas. 1 as opposed to 1.9% of Christian Kirk. I thought this offense wasn't going to be all that great, and it really wasn't, which is why I had a good amount of Brian Thomas. At first, I really liked his size, his speed, um, and his just film coming out of college. Chickened out on him and bought more into other wide receivers in the range, like Deontay Johnson, and that one really hurt me. So just a lot of picks that I think hurt me last year that can really, if I really lock in this year, go with my gut, I think we're gonna be okay. Josh Downs, I was in on that price. Michael Pittman, I was there with him. I didn't know that this offense was going to be terrible. Anthony Richardson did give enough rushing upside, probably. Jonathan Taylor, enough of. I think he paid off his price. I think last year I just like to go wide receiver. Tony Pollard, I was more in on. Let's see. More in on Tony Pollard. Last year at 12.2%. Calvin Ridley, I really faded, and that should have just been like when I'm looking at this team. I don't think it's terrible, and then you have Hopkins. He gets traded and dealt to Kansas City. You have Ridley. Not a terrible offense in my opinion. I guess looking back, but now it really looks bad. So Tony Pollard got the brunt of the workload in that offense. But it's just those types of offenses, even though one player might stick out, I don't want too much of an exposure to that player, if that makes sense. Just because I think the offense isn't going to be great. I had a lot of Kincaid. I think he's one of my bigger fades this year, which is kind of the reason why I see the Buffalo Bills offense stepping back really this year. I think I'm going to have more Ray Davis and Khalil Shakir than you do see here from last year. But I think Keon Coleman, I probably will have like 8 or 9%. James Cook, I'll probably have the same as last year, and Josh Allen, maybe the same as last year, but it's just not an offense I see really doing good. And then if Allen is hurt, then this offense is really gonna go downhill real quick. Breece Hall, I was not a proponent of him. I was liking Garrett Wilson at his cost, Tyler Conklin at his cost, and then Braylon Allen. Jonnu, I was in on at 14%. But A-Chain I was not. So there's just a lot of moves in here, and then I just wasn't in on really any of the Patriots. I thought it was just too bad of an offense for Drake May. So like the Saints, the Patriots, just wasn't too into them at cost. And the Chiefs, I was in on Rice, Pacheco. I'm kind of in on Kelsey, but them I wasn't really into also. And then just want to show you like Bowers, I was into 16.7%. But that offense didn't look great looking back at it. Ladd only 5.8%. J.K. Dobbins I really liked at that cost, 18.6%. And then the Broncos cost of Bo Nix, like Cortland Sutton is not even on here, and that's kind of a bad take on my part. But that's the team. Those are a couple of the players that I was into at costs. The Lions really helped me. And there was just a couple other teams that helped me. But if I'm really being honest, I think this is going to be a better year for me. So this year, and maybe it didn't look like I did good last year. but it paid off in DraftKings. I was able to earn a good amount of money last year, doubling what I put into drafting from last year. On both sites, Underdog and DraftKings. Um, but let's go to the completed drafts, my rankings, exposures, and you can see at the top of my exposures, I'll just go from the top down. Actually, start off with quarterback. Quarterback, I have Bryce Young. He's been a favorite player of mine, and maybe this is a little biased pick on my part, but like I don't want 52% of Bryce Young, if that makes any sense. But I do want enough of Bryce Young at cost. I think he's an undervalued player in my rankings. Let's see if I can pull up some rankings for you guys as well. In my rankings, he goes, I want to say along the lines of, so I have him right in back of Michael Penix. I have Rico significantly higher than him, but like I have him maybe going in the 130s. So maybe at cost he's okay, but he's a really good pick, I think. And he can be, honestly, he's a better upside play with Justin Fields. He has a scrambling ability. I think his comp, what I'm hoping for is a better player than Kyler Murray. But if we just like get the Kyler Murray effect on the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young's gonna pay off his ADP. And so will Tet and Xavier Worthy and Chuba Hubbard. I do see like this Carolina Panthers looking like the Arizona Cardinals, but also looking like the Green Bay Packers in a sense where Chuba's getting majority of the touches. They're in positive game script, and then Bryce has to throw it around. More of that Alabama type offense that we saw him operate at the college level. Jalen Milroe is another quarterback that I have up there. I won't talk about him too much, but Milroe is just an upside play on the Seahawks, a late round dart throw that I think the defense is going to be really good at the start of the season. At the end of the season, maybe the defense is on the field too much in Seattle, and they have to pass more or have just some juice on offense, and that's where they bench Sam Howell and get Jalen Milroe in the offense. And when you have a Jalen Milroe, a guy like Justin Fields that maybe even if he's not that great of a passer, if he's just competent either throwing the ball, but he has elite rushing and he takes off every fourth down or third down, I think it's just going to be really great for a spike week potential on your lineup. Justin Fields is like the same play but season long perspective. I think I'm gonna be more in on Justin Fields at his cost than like maybe a Kyler. I can see a fall off from Kyler this year, as opposed to Marvin Harrison helping him, and I could be wrong on that one. But if James Conner is like not doing well and they just have to rely on strictly Kyler Murray, I think I'd just rather have Justin Fields season long, or maybe even like a Bo Nix or someone else going in that range. I think maybe that range is kind of like the range I'm avoiding. But if I had to take a wide receiver, or I'll give you this example. If I take Joe Burrow in the fourth round, because if I get Jamar, I'm most likely getting Joe Burrow with him in the fourth round. I'll take Justin Fields for the rushing upside, um, just because it's kind of the opposite play where you're getting a good passer with the rushing upside of an elite quarterback, whereas you can't really get an elite quarterback if you get just Joe Burrow. Um, so if you have like Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, um, and Lamar Jackson, if you want to go Joe Burrow, I think you can go Joe Burrow, but grab Fields on that team. Just helps like with spike weeks or just elevates Joe Burrow's bottom outcome, in my opinion. Um, let's see. Jayden Daniels is another play that I'm going to be in on. Give me a second. Let me get some water. Not a lot in here. Um, Jayden Daniels, I'm going to be in on again this year. I see this team not doing great, but I see Jayden elevating this offense, maybe like a CJ Stroud, where he's a good enough passer, where he elevates that whole offense, and he maybe rushes the ball more. I do have Jaden slightly above Josh Allen. I do have Lamar still as the quarterback one, but I have Lamar probably out of the 5 quarterbacks or guys going in that elite quarterback range. I'm probably going to have the most of Jalen Hurts just because I think the play is Saquon gets hurt or A.J. Brown gets hurt, and Jalen has to just rely on his legs a little bit more. But I can see where I can see the reason why he's going lower than like a Josh Allen, and a Lamar Jackson. But I think if I'm really thinking about those two players, I think I do want Hurts over Allen. Maybe that's a hot take, but I think if games on the line, I think Hurts can kind of boost this offense up, give them a little bit of. They won't be as vanilla as they were last year, as dominant, and I think that's a positive regression. That's some positive regression for the Eagles' offense this year. I skipped over J.J. McCarthy, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy. I think those guys are. I can see the Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers, and San Francisco 49ers passing the ball a good bit. However, I do see them also wanting to run the ball a good bit as well. I think my comp for J.J. McCarthy is like a Brock Purdy. Joe Burrow kind of, maybe not as good as Joe, but maybe can get to that Joe Burrow type. And I'm confident that's the reason why Kevin O'Connell wanted to keep J.J. McCarthy as opposed to Sam Darnold. Um, I'm just really into this Minnesota Vikings offense, and if he shows any sort of good quarterback play, I want to be in on J.J. McCarthy. I think last year we were kind of getting a taste of that in the preseason, and then he gets hurt. This is an offense that tends to throw the ball a little bit more. They did get Jordan Mason, a guy that I really liked in the pre-draft process, up to 50% in pre-draft for me. Really liked him and his potential to land in a good offense. Pre-draft, he lands on the Minnesota Vikings. I'm into all Minnesota Vikings. I think I'm going to have probably about 20% of all of the Minnesota Vikings. The Green Bay Packers are a dark horse to win the division, though. If Love is good enough, I think this offense can be like a Dallas Cowboys offense under Dak Prescott, where they run the ball a ton, but they're also efficient passing the ball. I think a maybe more fun Kansas City offense from a couple years ago, or like these last 2 years, with possibly better weapons, maybe having a breakout for Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed, two guys I'm more into than Matthew Golden, and Romeo Dobbs. I'm taking a little bit of Wicks also at the end of drafts if I have Jordan Love or Raven stacks. Just really into the whole Green Bay Packers offense. I don't see, like I said, the Bears doing anything in terms of divisions and wins. But if they can push the Packers a little bit, like I think the Vikings can, I think I'm blanking on the other team, the Lions can. I think this is gonna be a fairly fun offense to be in on the Green Bay Packers. Maybe they don't have enough weapons, like I was saying about the Bills, but I think the quarterback will be competent enough. And I think the head coach is probably a good enough head coach to get this offense going. Now, I do want to say that Josh Jacobs is probably the heart of that offense. So if he goes down, I think his offense maybe can explode. Which that's something that I'm hoping doesn't happen. I see him possibly going in the first round next year if all goes well, and they really ride him through the run in the pass game. Jalen Hurts, guy I talked about, Brock Purdy. If they ride CMC a little bit more this year because their offense, their receiving weapons aren't great. I think that's his downside. However, like I'm gonna probably want Purdy with Ayuk and Kittle more so. And that's the play I'm gonna be doing. But I think CMC is just a very good pick at price. I think I have him going behind Gibbs and Bijan. I'll probably flip him with Bijan, and Gibbs is my number one running back this year. But CMC can be right up there at the number one running back position, and I wouldn't blink an eye, to be honest. Jackson Dart's just a late round quarterback that if he looks good in the preseason, maybe he in the preseason and in the summer, maybe he'll get a shot. Has like a Bo Nixian type. I think he's a Bo Nixian type player where he'll get the ball to where it's needed to be. And Neighbors is just a good offensive player. This team, like I said, does have a shot probably to make the playoffs if all goes well with them. They have a decently good defense also. Matt Stafford probably wants see now these are all 8%er guys after Purdy. 8%, 6%, 4%, 4%, 2%, 2%, 2%. But the guys at the top of my board are more so the guys that I like. So Stafford, Lamar, Burrow, Penix, Goff, kind of. Probably not so much Darnold and Trevor, maybe at cost. Baker, probably more so. Dak, absolutely more so. Stroud, more so. So I'll get this fixed drafting more quarterbacks because I do fall victim of kind of drafting the same structure. Getting Bryce Young with like an elite Jaden Daniels, Hurts, and someone in the middle. So that's why I have a fair percentage of the middling guys. And then just the way the draft falls, usually Love is there with like a Tucker Craft. And I like that play a lot. But the next few guys, Stafford, Burrow, Penix, Baker, Dak, Mahomes, let's see, Herbert, probably Caleb, probably that next tier of wide receiver or quarterbacks, and probably Trevor, if I'm being quite honest with you, are those next middle tier, in my opinion, that I think I'll be in on. So those guys will be like Lamar will be more so where Jaden is at the 22% mark. And then I'll have like these guys that are at 12%, and then I'll have let's see, like Kyler probably at 8%, May at like 8, Caleb at 8, Nick's probably at 10. In the middle of that, Goff probably at 10 to 12. Darnold probably at like 6. Gino probably at 8. Richardson at 4. Ward at like 4. But anyone else that you don't see on here, I'm not into at cost. So that's the quarterbacks. For the running backs, top of my draft is Rico Dowdle, 54%. Ranking, drafts, pick 'em, completed, exposures, running backs. So Rico Dowdle, 54% exposure to him. I'm just really in on, and then 2 slots after Chuba Hubbard at 32%. Really in on this Carolina Panthers offense. Then I have Jordan Mason in the middle of that. If Aaron Jones goes down, I think he's a vital piece of this offense. I think he's going to be the Chase Brown of this year. Um, Josh Jacobs, I think I said, and James Conner. How funny those are, two players together. Um, Guys that I see can get rid on their offense, like their offense can ride these players, these running backs, in my opinion. Um, Dylan Sampson, I think he's going to play a lot more than people expect. I think he's maybe not the better running back, but I think he has a chance to take away snaps from Quinshon Judkins, a running back that I think he's a little overpriced. Jaden Ballou, I think we can see him rise and fall, which is why I like the price. I think I need to be more in on the Jaguars running backs, than more so the Dallas Cowboy running back. Swift, I really like the cost of Swift. I think he's going to be a focal point of that Chicago offense. Chase Brown, really into Chase Brown at cost. He could be a guy going at the 1-2 return next year, or where we see Devon A-Chain going this year. Let's see. I think you can even say those two guys can flip, in my opinion, and I wouldn't bat an eye. Marshawn Lloyd, I just like Green Bay running backs, I guess. Audric Estime, really, I have that much of him. Okay, only 9 shares though. 18%. Audric Estime, Omarion Hampton, only 9 shares, but I just like betting on Hampton, the offense. Just really puzzle piece fit, in my opinion. Ramondre Stevenson, we were hearing that this offense was going to feed him a little bit, and I think he is a fine 0 RB pick at cost. Bayshell Tootin, he's a really fun where he's going. If we hear good coach speak on him, that will be fun. Travion Henderson, I see this offense, if they do take a step up, they're going to feature the Ramondre and Henderson backfield. Gibbs at 14%, like to see that. Jarquez Hunter at 8%. I see him kind of being the Knuckles to, or the Sonic to the Kyron Williams Knuckles. Zach Charbonnet, I think he's a really good handcuff back, good at touchdowns. I think that you're going to use still Charbonnet around the goal line. And so I like that click a lot. And then if Walker gets hurt, then you have Charbonnet. Aaron Jones, just a guy that just hasn't really fallen off quite a bit, but he does have Jordan Addison eating into that backfield this year. So we shall see what happens with him. Tyrone Tracy, not bad stats last year, but you can see Cam Scatterboo eating into him and his workload, so to speak. Tyler Algier, player that I can be in on, kind of, at cost, 1,000 yards when he was by himself, which is an interesting stat. Kyle Manunga, we can skip that one. Devin Neal, we can skip that one. Cam Scatterboo, like I said, I want more of him. Saquon's kind of a fade, but they didn't lose the Super Bowl, so I don't think he's going to get hurt necessarily. His efficiency will probably drop a bit, though. Force hurts to throw the ball. Ray Davis, I think he's going to be more of a feature back. I think he's like more of a Charbonnet type bet in that offense. I don't think James Cook is all that great. Only 1,000 yards, 200 yards receiving, 250 yards receiving, 16 touchdowns, though that touchdown efficiency can go down. Let's see. Roshan, I'm probably going to get more of. Christian McCaffrey, of course, I'm going to get more of. Um, Caleb Johnson is kind of a click I can get comfortable making. I think he's going to be more featured than people assume. And Najee didn't have terrible stats last year. Like, I don't have any Najee, but he didn't have terrible stats last year. I think he had like numbers like James Cook, but maybe this offense is really bad with their quarterback, and maybe that's not a click I want to be taking. 70%, I think it's fine. Let's see. Kenneth Walker. Walker's a hard click for me. I think maybe next year he'll be more of a fun click. With a better offense, maybe another better wide receiver too behind Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he's fine at price. I think he can go maybe where I think him and Swift can actually flip. But I think if he stays healthy, Walker's pretty good cost. I think I do want RJ Harvey instead of Walker, or like a Chuba instead of Walker at that range, which that's what my exposures say. Like, if they're going to go next to each other all season, I think I want Chuba Hubbard, not Walker. And I'm a Seahawks fan too, so that kind of hurts me as I say that. Quinshon Junkins is going to be a fade for me. H-Han, I'll probably get into a bit. Just the Dolphins could be a fade, to be honest. I can see H-Han getting hurt, and that really hurting this offense. Because the wide receivers really didn't show anything last year, and then if they like blitz the Dolphins with no H-Han, I can see Tua throw a lot of picks. Joe Mixon, I want more of. I don't think his efficiency has gone down too bad. I think his stats really haven't gone down. He's just been in a good place all his career, which is kind of why you don't want to fade him. Let's see. I think he's the clear 2, so it's like him and Nico. Let's see. Jalen Warren. I think he's going to be a fade for me, to be honest. Not super in on him. It's the year before he had 1,000 yards in total, which is decent, but it goes down from last year. Which is why I'm more in on Caleb Johnson, and maybe I should more even that out. But he's gonna probably be a fade for me, and I don't think it'll hurt me because of that team being so bad. Just in half PPR, you really got to think about the teams that can be bad, in my opinion. Bucky Irving, I want more exposure to him at cost. I think he's a way better click than like a Devon Achan pick. I think if you're having to choose between those guys, I think I'm gonna want the Bucky. Click. Kyron, I think he's probably underpriced. I know he's a hard fade for a lot of the community, but I think at cost, he's fine. And even if like I like him over a Brees Hall, just because I think that offense is going to be really nice for fantasy points if Puka and Devontae Adams. Sorry guys, it's late over here. But if Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua really open up the passing and in this offense, I think Kyron could eat with more yardage with the smaller box, smaller loaded box. I think that's what they were missing with like the Cooper Cup being hurt. Gene T, slight fade on him. I think I'll have like 7% of him. I do see the offense being good. They have talented players, him and Bowers. You just kind of see if he can produce at the next level. But if he does, he's like a really good smash pick. I think I do want to bring him up slightly in my rankings, but I think he's fine where he's going. I'm just more into the wide receiver, and then I'll grab like a Bucky instead. Derrick Henry, always a fan of Derrick Henry, future Hall of Famer. I have to get more of him. He puts up like 2022 numbers. I think it's good. I think not terrible. Let's see. Trey Benson, and on. I'm like with Benson, Brashard Smith. Maybe if we hear positive news, and then Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt is just a Washington piece. Wide receivers, Rashad Bateman at the top of my rankings. I could have sworn I saw 1,000 yards one time on here from last year, but only 750, 9 touchdowns, though, is what I really liked about that. He could possibly take another step up. Maybe it's Zay in this offense, or a likely. Maybe I'll cool down on that one a little bit. Xavier, I think he's just a fun fifth wide receiver. Like if you're taking him or Rashid Shaheed, I'm gonna take him every time. Just because Underdog is a half PPR site and you want touchdowns, and Lamar was giving it to him. He was a touchdown earner last year. Xavier Legette, just betting on this Carolina Panthers offense. Tedero McMillan, probably a hard 35% of him. Emeka Abuka, probably another 30%er guy. I'm going to have Jermaine Burton, hopefully. Not hopefully, but if T goes down, or just one of these guys goes down, he is the perfect opportunity to really get targets. I think he was just really good at Bama. Jermaine Burton and Jimmy Horn, just a couple of late round guys with Dontavian Wicks that I just like at cost. Addison, like I said, I'm into Minnesota. I like Brian Thomas Jr. at cost as the wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville. Jaden Reed, I said Green Bay. I was into Tutu Atwell. The Rams, I said, I'm into Zay Flowers. I can see this offense really doing well with him. Maybe he gets a couple of touchdowns, house calls or something. But he's a guy that can just offer you really nice spike weeks. Jacoby Myers, I like it. I like Myers. He could be the number 2. He is probably going to be the number 2 on that offense, but if he's the number 1, it's all wheels up for Myers and his cost. Like he's going right next to um like a Juwan Jennings. I think Myers is just a better click. Let's see. Torrey Horton, I think I'm gonna have like 8% of him. I think he's okay. I don't think he's all that. Noel, I think I'm gonna get more Kirk, maybe more of him. I don't know. This Houston offense, I gotta figure out. I think I maybe have to buy into the Nico Collins click. It's just so hard to just not take CMC. Back there. Who else is back there? Brian Thomas. Who else is back there? Puka. If you're in that Puka range, I think Puka is just gonna be absolutely fun. So I'm taking Puka. Garrett Wilson is fun too. With Justin Fields, JSN, I think he can really do wonders for the Seattle offense, being really the only target earner. AJ Brown, maybe he can give you 1,400 again at wide receiver with a few touchdowns. Khalil Shakir, probably underpriced, to be honest. Probably a guy that I'm going to be into at cost because of Josh Allen. Luther Burton's going right there. Drake London, I like the pick too, which is why I'm not really into Nico. I just gotta say, like, Nico is the Houston London, and I think that makes sense for me. Ridley, I think I need to get less Ridley, but he's fine. We're only like looking at 50 drafts. But in this order, I think it's fine. Neighbors, probably a little bit more of. T, probably a little bit more of. Debo, probably a little bit more of. Jefferson, more of, please. Lamb, Pickens. Who else? Pittman, Amon-Ra. There's a lot of guys I need to start diversifying into. Hunter, Nico, J-Mo, DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison, Terry McLaurin. I just have a lot of guys that are in that upper 30%. Tet, Mbuka, Brian Thomas, Jaden Reed, and then there's just a lot of guys that I'm kind of avoiding, so to speak, that middle range. But hopefully I got it locked down. Like, I want more lad. It's just maybe the construction, or he doesn't drop to me, or I just have a guy ranked higher. Terry is there. I think that's a fun click. Kind of getting into him. And then the guy that is on the thumbnail, Tucker Kraft. Green Bay. Hopefully you're good this year. I'm into Kraft. Really into Kraft. I think he can be the number 1 on this offense. Gesicki, if he can get some touchdowns. Or if not, if maybe a wide receiver goes down or somebody goes down, he's going to really get featured in the offense. Hunter Henry, George Kittle, I like those guys. Ferguson, Hawkinson, Chig Okonkwo, I like. Cole Kmet is okay at the later rounds with Chig. Bowers really into. Like when Ladd and Bowers are there, I think I'll take like the Bowers, but I think it's pretty even. Um, Trey McBride, I want more of. Kelsey, I probably want more of. Laporta, maybe. Likely, maybe. Kate Otten, maybe. There's just a lot of zeros that I can see happening in the tight end position. Like, I don't want really much of Kyle Pitts. Mason Taylor, I can see him getting some work. Colston Loveland, maybe he's a year away. But he for sure can get some work. Pratt Fryermuth, I'm probably in on. But really looking into these top elite guys with maybe one of these middle tier tight ends. But really gonna be looking in that. Like Jonnu wasn't in my tight end radar. I think he's gonna be a fine click. Hawkinson was up there. I think he's gonna be a fun click with let's see, with the Minnesota Vikings. But there's just teams I'm in on with in Underdog as opposed to last year me not having some stands. So if I see Green Bay, so Packers, I have the top: Kraft, Jacobs, Wicks, Reed. Really like those four. Love up there. And then I really have a tier break with Matthew Golden. I think he has like 700 yards, but I think he's a little bit overpriced on where he's going. See, Lions. Really haven't gotten a lot of Lions. I think I want to do that. Let's see, like Carolina. Like, look at all that Carolina that I've drafted. Chuba, Tet, Xavier Worthy, Rico Dowdle, Bryce Young. Just in on them. Cowboys. So Cowboys I'm into. I need to get more into the wide receivers, of course, and into Dak. And so that will help me with that. Vikings, I'm surely in on. Jefferson, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, of course, Jordan Addison, J.J. McCarthy, Hawkinson. Who else? Like the Bucks, I have a lot of Ibuka, no Mike Evans, no Bucky, or very little Bucky. Like, that's not a team I want to fade. Falcons, how much do I have of there? I'm like pretty even with the Falcons. Like the Texans, I don't want to fade. I need to get more of them. Let's see who else. I need to diversify a little bit more. I think just looking at the Rams. Got Puka, Tutu, Devonta. Then probably need more Kyron. So I'll diversify a bit more. I'll probably do that in BBM right now. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna get in a BBM in a little bit. I'm gonna eat something and grab something for my throat because I can't really talk now. But I hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of why I liked some players and some teams at cost. I wish I could talk a little bit more about why I like some players and teams. But maybe next week or the week after I have finals. So that week, Friday, it'll be, let's see, let's pull up the calendar. So like the 13th, I'll talk more about every team, so to speak, or I'll give you like team takes with videos on each team and my thoughts on how to play those teams in best ball. Then in July, early July, I'm gonna more so look at the board again and see, like next week we'll look at the board and we'll see like pockets of value, guys you can be even on with the field, and then players to like avoid and only get pieces of these players in certain spots. But I definitely want a good amount in marathon to draft, a good amount in the sprint. Um, I'll draft like 50 BBMs maybe. Probably less than that. Probably 50 though. No more than 50. Um, maybe I'll get in a pug. No, I'm done with pugs. Okay. Done with pugs. I got what? A schnauzer going on. That one just maxed. The puppy butt super flex, I want to get at least 50 of those. And the eliminator people like, that's a big contest. I don't know, maybe that one at the end of the year. I think that one's going to be more difficult for me. I think I'm more of like a marathon sprint type of guy. I think BBM, like I just like the eliminator. I think it's a lot more up to chance, so to speak, and not how good you drafted. Whereas the marathon is more how good you draft, not into the big dog. And then like a lot of these maxing little contests I'll be in on. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. See ya.